15. A Tempest in the School Teapot. What a splendid day, said Anne, drawing a long breath. Isn't it good just to be alive on a day like this? I pity the people who aren't born yet for missing it. They may have good days, of course, but they can never have this one. And it's splendider still to have such a lovely way to go to school by, isn't it? It's a lot nicer than going round by the road, but it's so dusty and hot, said Diana, practically peeping into a dinner basket and mentally calculating if the 3 juicy toothsome raspberry tarts reposing there were divided among 10 girls, how many bites would each girl have? The little girls of Avonlea School had always pooled their lunches, and to eat 3 raspberry tarts all alone, or even to share them only with one's best chum, would have forever and ever branded as awful mean the girl who did it. And yet, when the tarts were divided among 10 girls, you just got enough to tantalise you. The way Anne and Diana went to school was a pretty one. Anne thought those walks to and from school with Diana couldn't be improved upon even by imagination. Going around by the main road would have been so romantic. But to go by Lover's Lane and Willowmere and Violet Vale and the Birch Path was romantic, if ever anything was. Lover's Lane opened out below the orchard at Green Gables and stretched far up into the woods to the end of Cuthbert Farm. It was the way by which the cows were taken to the back pasture and the wood hauled home in winter. Anne had named it Lover's Lane, but before she had been a month at Green Gables. Not that lovers ever really walk there, she explained to Marilla, but Diana and I are reading a perfectly magnificent book, and there's a Lover's Lane in it. So we want to have one too. And it's a very pretty name, don't you think? So romantic. We can imagine the lovers into it, you know. I like that name because you can talk out loud without people calling you crazy. Anne, starting out alone in the morning, went down Lover's Lane as far as the brook. Here Diana met her, and the 2 little girls went on up the lane under a leafy arch of maples. Maples are such sociable trees, said Anne. They're always rustling and whispering to you, until they came to a rustic bridge. Then they left the lane and walked through Mr. Barry's back field and past Willowmere. Beyond Willowmere came Violet Lane, a little green dimple in the shadow of Mr. Andrew Bell's big woods. Of course there are no violets there now, Anne told Marilla, but Diana said there are millions of them in spring. Oh, Marilla, can't you just imagine you see them? It actually takes away my breath. I named it Violet Vale. Diana says she never saw the beat of me for hitting on fancy names of places. It's nice to be clever at something, isn't it? But Diana named the Birch Path. She wanted to, so I let her. But I'm sure I could have found something more poetical than plain Birch Path. Anything can think of a name like that, but the Birch Path is one of the prettiest places in the world, Marilla. It was. Other people besides Anne thought so when they stumbled onto it. It was a little narrow twisting path winding down over a long hill straight through Mr. Bell's woods, where the light came down, sifted through so many emerald screens that it was as flawless as the heart of a diamond. It was fringed in all its lengths with slim young birches, white-stemmed and disemboweled, ferns and starflowers and wild lilies of the valley and scarlet tufts of pigeonberries grew thickly along it, and always there was a delightful spiciness in the air, and a music of bird calls, and the murmur and laugh of woodwinds and the trees overhead. Now and then you might see a rabbit skipping along the road if you were quiet, which, with Anne and Diana, happened about once in a blue moon. Down in the valley, the path came out to the main road, and then it was just up a spruce hill to the school. The Avonlea School was a whitewashed building, low in the eaves and wide in the windows, furnished inside with comfortable, substantial, old-fashioned desks that opened and shut, and were carved all over their lids with the initials and hieroglyphics of 3 generations of schoolchildren. The schoolhouse was set back from the road, and behind it was a dusky fir wood and a brook where all the children put their bottles of milk in the morning to keep cool and sweet until dinner hour. Mills had seen Anne start off to school on the first day of September with many secret misgivings. Anne was such an odd girl. How would she get on with the other children? And how on earth would she ever manage to hold her tongue during school hours? Things went better than Marilla feared, however. Anne came home that evening in high spirits. "I think I'm going to like school here," she announced. "I don't think much of the master, though. He's all the time curling his moustache and making eyes at Prissy Andrews. Prissy is a grown-up, you know. She's 16 and she's studying for the entrance examinations into Queen's Academy at Charlottetown next year. Tilly Bolter says that the master is dead gone on her. She's got a beautiful complexion and curly brown hair, and she does it up so elegantly. She sits in the long seat at the back, and he sits there too most of the time to explain her lessons, he says. But Ruby Gillis says that she saw him writing something on her slate, and when Prissy read it, she blushed as red as a beet and giggled. And Ruby Gillis says that she doesn't believe it had anything to do with the lesson." "Anne Shirley, don't let me hear you talking about your teacher in that way again," said Marilla sharply. "You don't go to school to criticize the master. I guess he can teach you something. And it's your business to learn. And I want you to understand right off that you are not to come home telling tales about him. That is something I won't encourage. I hope you are a good girl." "Indeed I was," said Anne comfortably. It wasn't so hard as you imagine either. I sit with Diana. Our seat is right by the window and we can look on to the lake of shining waters. There were a lot of nice girls in school, and we had a scrumptious fun time playing at dinner time. It's so nice to have a lot of little girls to play with. But of course I like Diana best, and I always will. I adore Diana. I'm dreadfully far behind the others. They're all in the 5th book and I'm only in the 4th. I feel that it's kind of a disgrace. There's not one of them that has such an imagination as I have. And as soon as I found that out, I soon found that out, we had reading and geography and Canadian history and dictation today. Mr. Phillips said my spelling was disgraceful, and he held at my slate so everybody could see it, all marked over. I felt so mortified, Marilla. He might have been politer to a stranger, I think. Ruby Gillis gave me an apple, and Sophia Sloane lent me a lovely pink card with "May I see you home" on it. I'm to give it back to her tomorrow. And Tilly Bolter let me wear her bead ring all in the all the afternoon. Can I have some of those pearl beads off the old pincushion in the garret to make myself a ring? Oh, and Marilla, Jane Andrews told me that Minnie Macpherson told her that she heard Prissy Andrews tell Sarah Gillis that I had a very pretty nose. Marilla, that is the first compliment I have ever had in my life, and you can't imagine what a strange feeling it gave me. Marilla, have I really a pretty nose? I know you'll tell me the truth. Your nose is well enough, said Marilla shortly. Secretly, she thought Anne's nose was a remarkably pretty one, but she had no intention of telling her so. That was 3 weeks ago, and all had gone smoothly so far, and now, this crisp September morning, Anne and Diana were tripping blithely down the birch path, two of the happiest girls in Avonlea. I guess Gilbert Blythe will be in school today, said Diana. He's been visiting his cousins over in New Brunswick all summer, and he only came home Saturday night. He's awfully handsome, ma'am. He teases the girls something terrible. He just torments our lives out. Diana's voice indicated that she rather liked having a life tormented out than not. Gilbert Blythe, said Anne. Isn't it his name that's written up on the porch wall with Julia bells and a big take notice over them? Yes, said Diana, tossing her head. I'm sure he doesn't like Julia Bell that much. I've heard him say he studied for multiplication table by a Freckles. Oh, don't speak about Freckles to me, implored Anne. It isn't delicate when I've got so many. But I do think that writing take notices up on the wall about the boys and girls is the silliest ever. I should just like to see anyone dare to write my name up with the boys. Not, of course, she hastened to add, that anyone would. Anne sighed. She didn't want her name written up, but it was a little humiliating knowing that there was no danger of it. Nonsense, said Diana, whose black eyes were glossy, whose black eyes and glossy tresses had played such havoc with the hearts of Avonlea schoolboys that her name figured on the porch walls in half a dozen take notices. It's only meant as a joke, and don't you be so sure that your name won't be ever written up? Charlie Sloane is dead gone on you. He told his mother. His mother, mind you, that you were the smartest girl in school. That's better than being good looking. No, it isn't, said Anne, feminine to the core. I'd rather be pretty than clever, and I hate Charlie Sloane. I can't bear a boy with goggle eyes. If anyone wrote my name up with his, I'd never get over it, Diana Barry. But it is nice to keep head of your class. You'll have Gilbert in your class after this, said Diana. And he's used to being head of the class, I can tell you. He's only in the 4th book, although he's not nearly 14. 4 years ago, his father was sick and he had to go out to Alberta for his health, and Gilbert went with him.